Parents of Reddit, have you ever thought your child was dating someone who was too good for them? What happened in the end between them? My mother often tells both me and my brother that if either of us leave our respective girlfriends then we're out of the family and they're taking our places. My parents absolutely adore my girlfriend. I swear my dad texts her more than he texts me. When I was 16, I managed to get a pretty dang hot 19-year-old. We dated for 3 months and ended up being pretty good friends. We're still friends now. Maybe 5 years ago, I mentioned to my dad and stepmom that the 19-year-old just had her first kid. My dad said, you know, we always wondered how you dated someone like that. You were such a goddamn dork. Few years back, I was hanging out with this girl who I was really into. Her parents were divorced and she lived with her father, who was a really cool guy who I got on very well with. One day she was out with her mom and got back a bit later than she meant to when we were supposed to hang out, so I was just chilling and chatting with her dad. He told me, you know, Bundy, I know you care for her a lot, and I gotta thank you for being there for her. She was broken and you put the pieces back together while all I could do was watch. You're infinitely better than the last guy she was seeing and I really hope she sees that. But for your sake, don't wait around for her if she doesn't. That's a bro right there. My girlfriend in high school was way too hot by an order of magnitude as far as my legal dating was concerned. So hot that I'm convinced my parents let me get away with having sex with her because they knew it would never happen again. God, I really want to hear how that conversation panned out. Daughter too good for their son. Here, we dated for 5 years. For the last birthday I celebrated with them, mom wrote in the card the equivalent of "Don't let my son hold you back." In high school I started dating this girl and her father said to me, "Why are you dating her? You are too good for her." I should have taken that as a sign. She was a B and it didn't end well. If a father is willing to say that, run. My sister had that too good of a boyfriend for 5 years. Every time I could, I would tell him to run away from that crazy girl as fast and as far as he could. But he didn't listen. My parents probably felt the same way cause the dude was awesome as frick. She was so mean and condescending to him it was unbearable to watch. He didn't need that crap. He was better than that. And when she finally dumped him for no reason, he got drunk and almost killed himself driving his car, losing his license. He's now struggling to work without a car but he's freed. Now she's crazier than ever, psychosis and crap, but he's finally freed. Freed but not healed. Poor dude. Your sister must be hot AF. Just stopping by to make sure my dad hasn't commented on this thread. Well, my brother's girlfriend is definitely too good for him, or was, and this has been discussed by my mother and I, and she agrees. So what's become of it is my brother was once a felonious piece of crap that refused to hold a job despite myself or my mom hooking him up with the job in the first place. He sold coke in a local bar every night, got S-faced and geeked up in said bar, and would frequently get in fights, usually at that bar. Since he has been dating this girl he has quit smoking cigarettes, over a year now, maybe longer. He has also been sober for a year and a half. He doesn't do coke anymore either but does still sell it to a couple close buddies. He has a job and also does his own thing repairing and refurbishing gaming consoles. So it does have a happy ending in this case. They are very happy together and I guess technically he is still a felon and some things will never change about him, but he is better at hiding his piece of crap tendencies and has really grown as a person. So she's not too good for him. She just brings out the best in him. All relationships should do this. My brother heard his ex-girlfriend's parents speaking when he first met them. They were in the kitchen. He was gonna go in to grab some water but overheard them saying he was too good for their daughter and that she'd ruin him. Funnily enough, the poor sod got absolutely fricked over by that heartless cow and for a long time became the shadow of what he once was. She ended up moving away, and that gave him a decent level of closure. Now he has a new girlfriend and is doing amazing. That's not that funny. I was on the other end of this, dating a guy whose mother thought I was too good for him. I lived with them for a time, and some days she would look at me all concerned and ask me what I was doing with her son. At the time my favorite argument to all the people telling me things like that was I want him, so that makes him the best option for me. She was right. and I did leave him eventually. I still see his parents sometimes though. They were lovely people. I'd have been homeless for much longer in my younger years if not for them. My current so's mom hated me when we first started dating, so I was the bad partner too. She said I came with too much baggage and refused to acknowledge my existence for months. We've been together 8 years now, and her and I have grown close. Now I can't get her to stop talking. Similar experience. My ex's parents loved me, thought I was amazing, and wanted X to treat me great, marry me, etc. Obviously didn't work out, but his mom was more of a mom to me than my own mom. Sister not daughter. He dated her for 3 years then broke up with her saying he didn't see himself marrying her. Everyone saw this coming except my poor sister. Similar situation with my sister. The entire family hates the douche and she waffles between being moments away from breaking up with him to I love him so much, we're gonna get married. We've all straight up told her he's no good, but she just won't listen. The first dude I dated was Chinese, and his mother would always tell him that he should find a better girl than Chinese while I was in the room. Little did she know that I in fact went to Chinese bilingual school for 12 years and am fluent in Chinese. So, I asked where the bathroom was in her native tongue, and after I took a nice dump in their toilet, she was a lot nicer to me. Alpha AF. My entire family thought my ex was too good for me. They constantly spoke the world of him and even when we'd been dating like 5 months, they all talked about us getting married. He is very smart, polite, and cute, I guess. We only ended up dating for like a year and a half but when I broke up with him crap hit the fan. They all just kept asking me why I couldn't make things work and how great of a guy he was. We broke up in August, and my extended family was still talking about him and asking about him at Christmas. Definitely makes you feel like crap when your own family won't believe you that the relationship was horrible and that the guy really isn't that great. I feel your pain. My parents still talk about a guy I dated for about 5 years. We broke up about 3-4 years ago and they still ask me if I can make it work with him. He has a girlfriend he's been with for over a year and I'm pregnant lol. They say there's no harm in trying. On the other side of this, though I didn't know they thought I was too good for him until we broke up. After the breakup, his grandma took me out to a really nice lunch to tell me how lucky I was to not be in a relationship with him anymore and how I would find a world full of better people. It made me feel better then and I still look back and laugh a little about it now, because she was right. Saw it between friends. Girl with bio degree working in medical field. Other friend worked at a pet store, sold weed on the side, and to his credit, started his own fish tank cleaning business that is actually fairly successful. Was not surprised when they broke up. The fish tank guy makes more money now. I dated a woman who was way too good for me, and my mom acknowledged it. Does that count? I was in college, barely scraping by and I took a year off to go volunteer in East Africa and find myself. Or I guess you could put it that way. Anyway, I met this woman who was directing a music festival I volunteered at. We really clicked for some reason, but I have no idea to this day what she saw in me. It probably helped that we survived an insane bar fight that turned into a machete fight together. Well, that's the TLDR version. That crap builds bonds. She was a few years older than me, had 2 college degrees and she had served in the US Army. She worked as one of the highest people at one of the biggest companies on the continent. She was amazing, way out of my league. Anyway, we dated for just a couple months toward the end of my trip. I fell for her hard but I don't think she was anywhere near as into me. When I left for home I was really bummed. I still think about her 6 years later. I've tried to contact her a few times to see how she's doing but I haven't heard from her since the day before I left. I think I was just some fun for her but it was a lot more than that for me. This makes me sad. Could make a good movie. In 1991 I was 17 and working for the local carnival at the time during the summers for fun under the table cash and giving girls free rides on the scrambler. One cute girl invited me on a date, and her father met me at the door with a gun and said that his daughter had a headache and couldn't come out. Jokes on her though. I turned out to be really nice, a good family man, and a generally successful businessman. The carnival boss fired me at the end of the second summer because he said you don't fit in here. You should be running a business like this, not working for one. Go do better for yourself. I look back on that day and wish I could go back 23 years and tell that boss thanks. He was old at the time and probably dead now, but he was a good boss. Thank God for him. Giving girls free rides on the scrambler. Best euphemism ever. My mom, in her crazy way, thought my boyfriend wasn't good enough, also too good for me. She would tell me that I was too good for him because he didn't have a college education. Then he was too good for me because he was a really hard worker at a steady job. Then I was too good for him because he had tattoos. Then he was too good for me because I was so messy. And then I was too good for him because, well, her opinion really stopped mattering, cause we were two imperfect people with our own flaws, and he broke up with me a month ago. My mom thought I was too good for him for superficial country club reasons, but in fact, she was right to think he was too good for me for the other reasons. At least right now, cause he's got all his crap together, and I'm still struggling to start a career and get on my feet. When my last boyfriend, overly confident sales guy, came home to meet my father, very quiet stoic construction worker, the two of them somehow ended up talking one-on-one. And by talking, I mean X talked about himself while my dad listened. X said offhand, well, you know, Sloane's too good for me, and without a pause my dad said yes. When I asked him about it later, he said I'm not a liar. My younger stepsister's ex-boyfriend was definitely too good for her. Not that she sets the bar very high for that. He was a sweet guy. He wanted to settle down and be with her forever. They bought a house together. They adopted dogs together. He's lucky they didn't end up having kids together. I don't know all the details as I'm hearing them all secondhand from my mom, but evidently my sister ran off with another guy during a manic episode. She's left him with a mortgage he can't pay on his own. It will probably end up in foreclosure. Apparently there's also been some domestic violence in the last few months. And to top things off, she's recently bought a gun. Jason, if you're reading this, be safe and stay away from her. You're better off. My parents have been married for almost 30 years, and when they were engaged my dad's parents separately on 2 occasions straight up asked my mom if they were sure she wanted to marry him. Being like 22 at the time, she thought his was because they didn't like her. It was not that at all. I love my dad, but he has some mental, learning, and emotional maturity issues. That means that even though he is going to be 54, he functions as a 15-18-year-old kid. That wasn't so obvious back then when he was 25-30, but it is now. My grandfather and my mother used to commiserate about how they were married to the same person. My grandmother is just as bad as my dad. My grandmother is wildly unaware of her own issues but recognizes my dad's problems and was trying to subtly warn my mother off. On my mom's side of the family, my uncle married a woman who is his lucky stays with him because he has a severely paranoid personality. Also, my grandmother is getting married to a longtime friend in April and he could do so much better than her. They are happy, but we already decided we are keeping him and getting rid of her if need be. I dated an ugly, not intelligent, basically criminal pillhead back in high school. I never really got the whole "you're too good for him," but I definitely got looks of pity from his family that weren't drugged off their asses. Those people were sweet. The rest didn't give a frick how he treated me because he had done it to so many other girls. The plus side is, a relationship like that really makes you appreciate a good one when it comes along. My dad likes my husband better than me. I guess I must have some sort of Freudian complex, because my husband basically has the same personality as my dad. The second they met they were thick as thieves. They chat on Skype all the time, and this summer they're going on a road trip from the UK across Europe to Lithuania together. I guess it's fair though, because it's pretty obvious that my husband's dad likes me more than him. We're both more serious, and we both enjoy history and architecture. When he comes up to Scotland to visit us we travel around to all the old castles and burial sites while my husband goofs off somewhere. Actually, now that I think about it, my husband and I might have accidentally traded dads. Haha. This is really adorable. I was seeing this really handsome buff guy, and my dad insinuated that I needed to clean myself up. I'd always thought I was pretty stylish. Back in 2011 or so my tiny black bee was being pretty aggressively courted by a mentally challenged chocolab. She was definitely too good for that inbred bastard. Mentally challenged chocolab. Pretty sure that's redundant. For the record, I love labs and have had several. All were total sweethearts and mentally challenged to some degree. Labs are adorable. Red Foreman to Eric because of Donna. Upvote because that 70s show. But Eric was a tremendous dumbass and had his own way to be a douchenizzle. Donna was way out of his league though. My dad's mother used to always ask my mom, why are you still with that crap bag, and many other similar things. I'd imagine this would get more responses if you overheard your parents saying your girl boyfriend wasn't good enough for you. I was the daughter too good for the son. We were both early 20s, dated for 2 years. His mum was super awesome, came out as a lesbian midlife after 5 kids with his dad. One day at his grandma's house, when he was being an antisocial, as per usual, she called him useless and introduced me to everyone because he wouldn't do it himself. She later warned me about his cold iron heart when he was out of the room when we came over for dinner one night. Looking back, she was trying to protect me, I think. When we broke up 2 years later, the first thing he did afterwards was drive over to his mum's house and spent about 3 hours there talking to her about it. Although I don't know what was said, I'm still grateful we broke up to this day. On the other side of the fence, my last relationship, I wasn't good enough for their son. I'm from a big family, working class background, and despite holding multiple degrees and having an excellent job with a prestigious company, his parents thought I wasn't well bred enough. They never even met me, but had decided because I had 5 siblings, was from a suburban town in another state, and my parents never graduated high school, I just wasn't good enough. I have lived overseas, am well traveled, conservative vintage dress sense etc etc. I even changed the way I spoke long before I met him, when I first moved to my current city because my accent sounded bogan trailer trash. Nope. I still wasn't good enough for their precious little snowflake who still lives at home. And it didn't help that I wasn't Jewish. We broke up because his dad started a fight with him about the fact that he wasn't mature enough for a serious relationship. He was 27 at the time. I think you dodged a bullet with that last one, tbh. My dad just told me randomly one day after bringing my girlfriend on a family holiday to not frick this one up. I ended up Wi-Fiing her up. I love my daughter, 17, to death, but I've experienced this a couple times. Along comes a smart, kind, talented boy with his eyes set on his future who treats her like a goddamn princess, and she'll use him for whatever she can get until some douchebag comes along to take his place. She's gotten mad when her mom and I have called her out on it a few times. Truth hurts, I guess. I really hope she wises up. My brother had a girlfriend who was nice, smart, etc while he was a cheating douche. They were both popular, but when she finally broke up with him after he cheated several times, he became depressed. Yet my mom still went to lunch with her, did her hair, and so on, and agreed with her decision to be done with him. My ex's parents would always tell me that I was too good for their son and that I could do so much better. Sure enough, he broke my heart and I found someone much better. I guess parents do know best. My mom would have so much to say about this. We've been together for 15 years. Ma, let it go already. He's not leaving. I always have the opposite problem. Her parents usually think she's too good for me. That's pretty standard. My then boyfriend's parents had a 4th of July barbecue, to which my parents and I were invited. I overheard his dad talking to my dad, saying, "Oh, we love aim photo," but, knowing my son, he is going to something to screw it all up. My dad has liked very few of my boyfriends over the last 20 years. I remember one he particularly liked. I had been living with him for about a year. When he fell in love with someone else, he gave me my 30-day notice. I was devastated and called my dad asking if I could move home. My dad's response: "How did you frick this one up, Rockstar 81? The one I actually liked. My grandma will hardly speak to me after breaking up with the nice Jewish boy. She really liked him. Last time I visited, she asked about him. Thankfully, he and I are still friends, so I can give her updates. She still talks about how I should have held on for dear life instead of walking away over something as silly as religion, because after all, you can fake faith." My ex's parents thought their little princess Tonya was too good for me. That be, I am too good for her. first time I met my ex's grandfather, he pulled me aside and said, "Run. Don't think, just run." He was right, she was a closet drug addict and ended up in jail. My sister has told me frequently that if things between my fiance and I ever end, no matter what, it was my fault, and she'll cut my balls off in the night as retribution for ruining it. My mother just laughed and agreed. My extended family all think she's the most wonderful person to ever exist. I'd say all that counts. My mom is always amazed at the quality of the long-term women I attract. Like she always says, "You're not that amazing. What do they see in you?" Not a parent, but my boyfriend's parents actually think I'm not good enough for him. They said they want him to be with a woman that's pretty, classy, and also Asian like him. I know I'm not that classy. My style is more grunge punk, but I'm an overall sweet girl. Looks can be deceiving. I find the race part funny though, because I'm half Asian. I just don't look like it. They actually convinced him to break up with me. However, he realized he wanted to be with me and told them to back off. Parents, unless the relationship is abusive, stay out of it. Don't try to live vicariously through your child. One of my best friend's son is a total frick up. He has the nicest girlfriend. She has told girlfriend's mom that she would never let girlfriend date her son. I can't imagine feeling that way about my kid. Whenever I took a girl from my school out on a date in high school, they all came out to the car in shock. My dad just told me, "No curfew. Stay out as late as you want." It happened to me repeatedly. Usually the curfews were 11 PM if they hated the guy, or midnight if they liked him. I grew up in a lower middle class neighborhood and apparently, everyone knew I'd be very successful. They weren't wrong. So I met my sig other online while they lived in England. For a month leading up to their first flight over here, their mother would serve breakfast each morning, then lovingly and silently set a news article about someone getting raped or murdered in America next to the plate. After being over here for 2 weeks, we're talking to mom over Skype and she smiles at me and proceeds to read off a list of every single address I've ever had since I turned 18. Fast forward to where we've been living together for 3 years. We get into a fight, and Sig other calls mom and says something to the effect of, "You know, sometimes I get so mad I could just walk out." The next day mom calls back and says, "I bought the plane tickets you asked for. You leave for home in 3 weeks. Mom spends next 3 weeks convincing Sig other that they're a terrible person for wanting to waste all that money, and Ryan is a horrible pile of crap, and now you have to go back. Everyone's so looking forward to seeing you again, and now we've been together for 7 years. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.